Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Science of Spirit. Today I'm going to share with you a channeling session that I did. This wasn't actually a past life regression that I did on myself. This was actually a channeling session where I asked my higher self questions about where my spirit actually came from initially. So this is actually several channeling sessions that I put together, because oftentimes I'll have more questions once I've done a channeling session about the information in a previous one. So I asked my higher self, what was the first thing it did, when it first came here to this planet? Be it in a body or even just in spirit, because you never know what was going on, or when this even was. And I have no dates on this, but this is really, really, really long time ago. So as it turns out, my spirit was in Lemuria as its first real experience of being in the earth plane. After doing those Lemurian sessions, I then actually asked, where my spirit was before that. And I got some answers on that too. So that was all kind of interesting. And what spirit does when it's, in spirit, how things are formed. My spirit was very much into creating things and forming things. So I hope you find this interesting, and I will read from those channeling sessions. This very first session is from about 2010, when I was really starting to channel and realizing that it was accurate. So this is a very small blurb from then, and then I asked just last year more information on this because I'd kind of forgotten about it. So I had asked, where did my higher self come from? And I was born of the fairy. I left there to learn about nature in a more applicable way. When in human body, I still carry the knowledge of nature's ways. That is why we get along with nature and nature body. I can apply my nature ways to applications requiring energy to make them run. I asked, when this body dies, where will we go? Answer, back to spirit as usual. It has been a long time since being in the fairy realm. It would now be too simplistic for me to go back, but I have fond memories. I am a soul now, happy to be a soul, learned so much. I don't know technology, as you would say it, but I do know how nature works. So this next part I channeled just last year, and you can see I get far more information. You can see how my channeling has actually gotten better with time, because that was really all I got before. So here's the rest of it from 2019. I asked, was I semi-physical or embodied in Atlantis or Lemurian times? Answer, Lemurian. One of the last to go. Took refuge in containment center, last to go. And this gets explained a little down the line here. I asked about that later on. What was Lemuria like? The continent was large. It consisted of peoples, loosely, that were propagators of humanity. Entities who knew how to masterfully create into the physical. Not hard, except much focus is required. When memory is intact, the ways can be used to bring about astral properties into the physical. I asked, how was I involved? Answer, we were born of the fairy group who prospered in Mu for centuries. Laonia were keepers of the plant and mineral kingdoms. Through the fashioning of vibrating concoctions, the physical traits desired were removed from certain vibratory patterns and then used to bring upon the earth certain physical parameters to engulf a focalized mass into existence. Then I asked, what was the containment center you referred to? The locale where all of the beasts were kept. This area was used for bringing in rays of focalized thought into a creation and changing the DNA RNA patterns, thus creating new traits. I asked, what did you mean by last to go? Answer, many times we were entering the kingdom, but were the last to leave upon its destruction, knowing full well it would be the last remaining outpost. Our spirit became fond of the creatures and wanted to help them adjust. We gave life to those who would want physical existence, most to the degree that they wanted to embody as a human or combination. So then I asked, what was the containment center? Answer, it was a place for bringing in animals of differing types, in order to put several beings into a category for typing the genes. Many times it was us that were working with beings and fixing issues brought about by poor judgment and experimentation. So then I wanted to know what the rays were that were being referred to. Then there was the raw ray. Ensconcement at its finest. This particular ray was used to bring about a human of higher spiritual content. More of a higher self type awareness, if you will. The various rays were used from differing frequencies to create animals and humanoids. Our ray existed before raw ray. Raw ray was an improvement. Question, who is the we you are referring to? We refers to myself and others at the time. We connected together to form a group who were interested in human endeavors. Yes, in a body of Lemurian times. It was somewhat gelatinous or plasmatic. The bodies were just formed for our temporary use, not the physical bodies of today. The bodies we used made it easier to physically maneuver. Question, what were the Lemurian bodies like? Answer, dense plasma, but some were more physical than others. It enabled us to better connect with animals of the times. Question, what are the rays you referred to? Rays were different attributes that connected the long-standing vibrations of God into a coherent beam to be focused upon for maturation of an embryonic state. Lost art form, but had tendencies that were hard to create in life forms. And I had a question mark behind that. What did you mean by last to go? Answer, when the last of the creatures were set out upon the lands, we left. We attested to the beginnings of the Anunnaki arrival, but did not interfere with them. We were of a different physicality. The Anunnaki were harbingers of totalitarianism. Lemuria was a gentle, creative place of light, where the new and bold fashioned themselves out of the ethereal matrix. The Devic realm was put upon the planet by spirits of God, light, who planned to help keep the nature realms clean and run smoothly, without interference from physical beings. Nature spirits of plants and animals, but also early humans. Question, when you said we left, where did we go? Answer, Lemuria was destroyed by floods. We left before that happened. And then I asked again in a later session, what did Lemurian bodies look like? Answer, they were varied. Most were fairly tall and thin, but some were on the short side. The fairy, Devic realm shapeshifts. We conformed to what was necessary at the time. Sometimes Lemurian in look, but oft-times more ethereal, semi-transparent. Gold glow occasionally. I asked, what did Lemuria look like? Answer, Lemuria was called the motherland or Mu. It had forests and lakes and ocean. Many species of plants and animals too. Gems were part of the coastal regions and were then made use of by combining various gems into concoctions to be delivered to the entities wanting to transform. It was found you could vary the genes and create differing traits. I asked, is the Devic fairy realm the same now as it was back in Mu days? Answer, yes. The realm is and will always be earth keepers, functions of the fairy realm. The difference is in genetic modification as done through physical manipulation today as a method that weakens the soric, I don't know what that is. This method does indeed make changes, but does not affect the inborn physicality of the cells to pass on traits. I asked, what else did my spirit do in Lemuria? Now note, I said spirit. Our spirit was accustomed to being around Lemurians, and so it was that together we created plants and animals and humans of differing species. We were in spirit around Lemurians. I said, talk about the Diva Kingdom. Answer, we were part of Fairy Kingdom assigned to help Earth. Humans, plants, and animals. As a Devic helper, we brought forth many kinds of combinations to create different species on this planet realm. Nature is made up of many types of entities. Spirit realm and others combined into one realm of nature. A vast majority of players in this realm are those who work with etherium to cause it to become coagulated into a type of plasma. This begins the process of bringing forth a pattern to use for trait transference. Trait transference can be replicated DNA replication. Divas are types of spirit that are simplistic in nature. They each have a special purpose to bring about changes in life forms, mostly plants. And I asked, is there a diva per type of plant? Answer, yes, a diva for each plant species. After doing these sessions, I really had a lot more questions because I wasn't sure if, it almost sounds like there's two different things going on here. In one aspect, there's being a diva in the Devic realm, but then there's also being Lemurian with a semi-transparent body. So I wasn't sure if somehow that was all one thing or not. But no, it ended up being two different things, but working kind of together. So I did another channeling session, and this is the information that kind of fleshed that out a bit. Ha, no pun intended. Lemuria. Back in Lemuria, our spirit was placed here to help with nature beings. We did not intend to harm anything, but some mistakes were made. Learning process. This was mostly with many different prototypes of beasts, both animals and early humans. We made amends by being in the Devic realm of nature and learning what can and cannot be done. And then I asked, before Lemuria, where were you, higher self? Well, me, higher self. Answer, I was part of a spirit hierarchy given domain over planetoids formation and the early assemblage of thoughts to create worlds. Many spirits are like that, we create, be it physical or astral vibration, worlds, realms. Being a master communicator is being able to communicate both into the physical, solid, and astral, and back and forth. Hearing God and others. So then I really wanted to know where my spirit came from before it even came into the earth area, or the earth plane. And I got that it was Lyra, or in that general vicinity. And here's what was said. Long ago, there was a group of beings who kept shining lights of truth, beacons of truth for the planet with the suns. The plan was a factor in development of sound programs for those who wanted to enmesh within a stream of consciousness that kept peaceful solutions for the whole area. Benefactors. No bodies. Spirits who inhabited the lands were oft times bringing into this realm thoughts of peaceful agitation. This was not the way that was taken. Some of us split off from that realm and went forth. We lost our main focus of love and light and became enchanted with gross form. The idea of a planet with solid forms was intriguing, and I ventured into the earth realm several times before coming in as Lemurian and Diva. Those of us in the pod, took on various forms on a trial and error basis. it became very hard to maintain one's high vibration in solid form. Some of us left before getting enmeshed. My spirit stayed to try and figure out a way to create harmoniousness in solid form. We tried to gain control of vibrational grid by keeping vibe up, but eventually this vibration could no longer be held and lower vibration took hold. So that's the information that I got from my higher self on Lemuria. Kind of interesting, but you can see where it just brings up more questions. I've still got questions I could ask about it. And I'm not so sure that some of this is really completely understandable. It may be my higher self's attempt at really trying to explain something that is kind of hard to know unless you're there, I guess, so to speak, if that makes any sense. It seems a lot like spirit really just can't help itself as far as putting things together new ways and accidentally or deliberately going against nature's ways, which always seems to cause problems by upsetting the balance. And this information about Lemuria and the Devic realm seems to be in the early years of forming humans and human bodies and animals on this planet. So it was even kind of going on then, and then some correction. It sounds like my spirit was trying to correct some of the errors that it had made by going back in and as a diva, which in that realm, it's all about nature. You are nature, so you just use nature's ways and then try to apply that when you're not in nature. Kind of interesting. And then later on in history, you've heard of the centaurs and these, half human, half animal beings, in Greek mythology. And apparently that was all, once again, real stuff with the manipulation of physical bodies. And we're even doing that today. So going against nature is never really a good thing. At least apparently my spirit learned that lesson. Because now, even today, we've got all this genetic manipulation, and it never really seems to be a good thing. I mean, it gives you the GMOs. Okay, maybe you get some sort of trait that you want, but at the demise of people. And this whole genetic manipulation of viruses and stuff like that. I mean, for what good? I mean, really and truly, what good is going to come out of that? Unless there's some sort of money to be made. That's my best guess with it. It seems like most things in this time are all about the money. Money, money, money. And it doesn't seem to matter if it goes against the earth or the people itself, which is really kind of strange. But I think a lot of things are being brought to the surface now, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next few years with the uncovering of all the corruption and everything that's been going on. And part of that would be some of this genetic manipulation stuff. And my higher self did have one other thing that I wanted to go ahead and include here. Now is a time of awakening, and it is upon the lands. Some individuals will be more influenced than others to pursue dreams. Images and icons from the past are now being left to disperse. Nobody is alone in this. Peoples will be able to move in a more natural way rather than giving themselves to a cause they don't really want. So I think now is when we're seeing things coming to fruition in a new and more improved way. Obviously, it's chaos right now, but I don't think it's going to be that way forever, and I think it's going to be a really great thing that we are all collectively wanting to experience in a positive way. And then those who don't want that can also go their own way. There's going to be this split. And I asked my higher self about this, and it was explained to me in that channeling session I did on the New Earth, which is what Dolores Cannon referred to it. And I wasn't so sure that was a real thing or if it was just kind of a flight of fancy or what. But no, it's a real thing that's occurring, that it's going to happen to everybody on the planet. And it's going to be a positive, really positive thing to have happen. And I will channel more information on this because I have my suspicions that somewhere along the line, this was decided, and like not too long ago, that we were going to do this split. I don't know. I could be wrong. But up until, I don't know, probably several years ago, everyone was seeing, all the psychics and everyone was seeing all this destruction of the planet. You had Gordon Michael Scallion talking about this. You had Ed Dames talking about it. You had all kinds of people, talking about the earth really being destroyed and that humans themselves were probably going to bite the dust again because this has happened in history numerous times. So this is something very new, that there's this split, and that instead of just trashing the whole thing over again, to let one faction who's able to raise their vibration go forward and continue on without being destroyed and having to start over again. So I think the whole thing is pretty fascinating. And it could be that it's possible that we just didn't have our vibration raised enough to be able to see that there was another way of moving forward into a new earth, so to speak, rather than just going down with the old one. Since there's so much of a discrepancy between those wanting peace and wanting a positive life, and still those having a lot of fear and not necessarily wanting that kind of an outcome. And I can see why there are entities from all over the place wanting to watch this and see what happens, because I don't know if this has been done before or not. According to Dolores's information, it has not been. So I guess we'll find out. But once again, I don't know, and I haven't asked how long a process this is going to be. Is this something that will happen in my lifetime? To see the actual fruition in a really super positive way? Or is it going to be generations down the line? I hope you found the information on Lemuria interesting. I had never really heard much of anything about it, so it was all new to me. And definitely check out my podcast on the New Earth, because that fleshes out some of this whole thing. Not about Lemuria, but of the future of the Earth and all of its inhabitants. And I've thought about this. Think how wonderful that would feel to not have the constant negativity being foisted upon us, the fear especially. And how that would help the whole human collective if there was just only so low you could go, and fear wouldn't necessarily be something that would be there all the time. It would be something that would be a short-lived thing, such as, fight-flight type thing that is supposed to be a temporary issue, not something that's chronic over years and years. And that stuff really takes its toll on your body. It really does. It takes its toll on the spirit kind of too. That's where in dealing with past life regression, you can find things that are affecting you in this life and fix them. And these are things that had their origins in a past life that you have carried through to today. So I really do urge people to look into the things that are really still causing you problems and try to resolve it as best you can, because it makes you feel so much lighter. Now, at some point here in the future, I will be offering past life therapy for people. I don't have it quite going yet, but when I do, I will make a note of it and I will give you the website and everything. And I will be using NMR to find out what's best that we should go into. You can bring a list of questions to ask your higher self. And we'll go back into a past life and find out what's there and what needs to be addressed. So it's something that you might think about doing, whether it's through me or with somebody else. I think it's important to go through and find those things that are still giving you problems so that they don't weigh you down and you can raise your vibration. And at some point I had asked my higher self, what happens, when you pass on and you don't resolve things? What does it do to the spirit, if anything? What's the big deal? And my higher self said it actually puts a drag on it. So I suppose there's always this lower vibration that is stuck there. And I found out that what you create in the physical has to be fixed here in the physical. You can do a certain amount of it with a past life review once you've, just barely crossed over. But if you created it in the physical, it has to be fixed in the physical. So that's about it for today. These podcasts are available on Anchor, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Radio Public, and Spotify. And if you are a listener on YouTube, please subscribe and click the bell to be notified of when I upload again. So once again, this is Janice with the Science of Spirit. I will be back next week.